To love a siren. The rain had followed Eli Winters north for 3 straight days, washing the highways in mirror-slick sheets and turning the forest roads to mud, as if conspiring to keep him moving. When the weather broke and pale sun spilled across the cracked windshield of his rust-scarred van, he almost turned back, afraid good luck would undo him. Instead, he pushed on, climbing narrow lanes that once served chauffeurs and limousines, but now lay hidden beneath drifts of amber leaves. At the crest of a ridge, the woods parted just long enough to reveal the mansion, a brooding silhouette in mottled stone and steel-rimmed glass, its wings stretching like the folded claws of some slumbering beast. Ivy clung to every seam. Gutters drooped like torn lace. One blind window winked in the breeze, a single shard of antique-stained glass catching the sun. Eli cut the engine. Silence roared in his ears. "So this is where a billionaire goes to disappear," he muttered, shouldering his camera bag. The red record light blinked, a habit he had never shaken even though his channel's subscriber count had stalled somewhere south of obscurity. He filmed his own boots squelching through mulch, then tilted the lens upward. "Victor Hallstrom," he said to the camera, tech messiah, doomsday hoarder, and one-time richest recluse on the eastern seaboard. Dead now. Officially a heart attack. No heirs, no staff, only rumors. Let's see what he left behind. The entry doors were barred by a chain gone brittle with rust. A single tap from his crowbar snapped it like spun sugar. Inside, dust motes drifted through gray bars of light. The foyer smelled of cedar and forgotten perfume. Murals in smoky jewel tones sprawled across vaulted ceilings. Siren ships, stormy seas, mythic waves cresting around brass chandeliers that hung dead and heavy. He wandered room to room. Ballroom, library, a conservatory choked with ferns grown wild in broken pots, feeling the hush settle over him like a thick wool cloak. By noon, he had mapped the ground floor and most of the second, filming everything, narrating in low whispers that seemed sacrilegious. He found the elevator by accident. Behind a lacquered panel in the study, a seam of light glimmered. The panel slid aside beneath his touch, revealing a stainless steel door no bigger than a broom closet. Its keypad blinked soft green. Eli stared. "Still powered after a year," he breathed. He jabbed a random sequence. The display denied him. Then he tried one of Hallstrom's more famous patent numbers, an absurd long shot. The door chimed and glided open. The cabin smelled of ozone and antiseptic. As the doors sealed, soft music pulsed overhead. Debussy filtered through invisible speakers. The car lurched downward. Floor indicators slid from 1 to -2, -3. At -5, the descent stopped. The doors parted onto a corridor of brushed aluminum and white LED strips that hummed like captive bees. Food storage bays lined one wall, freezers still humming, shelves stocked with freeze-dried packs and glass jars suspended in carbonate gel. A climate-controlled closet held racks of charcoal suits, still tagged. A hydroponic greenhouse thrummed behind glass lettuce heads glowing emerald beneath ultraviolet lamps. He wandered deeper until a reinforced door blocked his path. Red stenciled letters screamed, "Classified Level 5." A biometric reader waited, patient as a predator. Eli's reflection stared back. Mess of dark hair, week-old beard, green eyes, rimmed with insomnia. He lifted his crowbar, ready to pry when the sensor pulsed blue and the bolts withdrew by themselves. "Well, thank you, Victor," he whispered. Beyond the threshold, the air cooled further, tinged with brine. The chamber was cavernous, its ceiling lost in shadows. At its heart rose a cylinder of flawless glass at least 30 feet across, filled with sapphire water, that glowed from hidden panels below. Tiny bubbles spiraled upward like silver snow. He stepped closer, raising the camera. Something shifted in the water, a slow coil of pale light, like moonlit kelp. A ripple lapped against the interior wall. Eli's breath frosted the glass. Then a face appeared. It hovered inches from his own. framed by a mane of silvery teal that drifted like silk in a current he could not feel. Blue eyes as deep as trenches fixed upon him, not empty or instinctive, but acutely aware. Scales shimmered along high cheekbones, opalescent and fine. Her lips parted in silent surprise. Eli staggered back. The camera clattered to the floor. Water thrummed. The figure receded, revealing shoulders, slender arms that ended in webbed fingers, and below the waist a long tail streaked in iridescent emerald and pearl. She moved with effortless grace, a living stroke of calligraphy. A single word slipped from Eli's throat. Hello. Through 3 inches of glass and thousands of gallons of seawater, he knew she heard it. The mermaid, what else could she be, hovered, eyes narrowing in the soft glow. She touched the glass with tentative fingertips. Each nail tapered to a translucent point like shells worn smooth by tides. Eli's pulse thundered. His rational mind scrambled, tripped, fell. He forced himself to breathe. You're real. His voice cracked. You're real. A ripple of sound answered, deep, resonant, almost choral. It rumbled through the chamber walls, neither growl nor song, more like the echo of a harp struck somewhere underwater. He braced a palm against the glass. Her expression changed. Not fear, not anger. Something gentler, sadder. He sank to his knees, camera forgotten, and laughed. Half hysteria, half wonder. Tears welled unbidden. He wiped them away, embarrassed though no one watched but her. I'm Eli, he said. Eli Winters. Her lips formed a shape that might have been his name, though no sound emerged. Then, as if satisfied, she drifted backward, curling through beams of blue light before vanishing into shadow. The encounter left him trembling. He rose and scanned the equipment bank surrounding the tank. Monitors scrolling pH and salinity, oxygen saturation, pump status. One screen warned in amber text, filtration error 37 days remaining. His mouth dried. He swiped across a touchscreen and a video log opened. Timestamp 8 months earlier. The screen fizzed to life, revealing a sterile lab and a woman in a white coat, auburn hair coiled at her nape. Subject N1 appears stable, she said, voice taut. But the Oversight Committee refuses further funding. Hallstrom has ordered accelerated trials despite my objections. I fear this creature won't survive another month unless we stop. She glanced off screen. If anyone finds this, my name is Dr. Madeline Crane, please. The video cut to snow. Eli scrolled to the next. It showed Victor Hallstrom himself, gaunt, eyes glittering above cavernous cheeks. Genesis begins with dominion, Hallstrom said. Mankind was promised the sea. Yet we have plumbed only the shallowest trenches. She is our key. He nodded toward someone unseen. Proceed. The clip ended mid-sentence. Eli's skin crawled. He paced the circumference of the tank, searching for any sign of Narina. The name felt suddenly natural, formed in his mind the moment he saw her, though he had never spoken it aloud. Narina, he whispered now. A faint swirl spiraled outward from the center as if she had brushed the water. Hours slipped by. Eli dragged a cot from a storage alcove and positioned it beside the glass. He tried to record an update for his viewers, but deleted each take. What could he say? That he had found a mermaid imprisoned in a billionaire's basement? That he planned to stay? Night fell. The bunker's lights dimmed automatically. Soft bioluminescent strips inside the tank glowed, painting the room in shifting turquoise. Eli dozed in half-sleep, haunted by dreams of drowning in silent cathedral waters where a silver-haired angel watched from below. A splash jolted him awake. He shot upright. Narina floated inches from his face, pupils wide in the dark. Moonlight from somewhere above filtered through a narrow shaft and refracted across her scales like fractured diamonds. He inhaled shakily. Hi. Her webbed hand rose until her palm pressed his through the glass. The glass hummed faintly. He felt absurdly sure that, if he leaned closer, he might hear her heartbeat. He whispered, You okay? She mouthed something, slow and deliberate. Eli. He swallowed a knot. That's me. His voice barely carried. Are you hurt? Trapped? He gestured around the tank, hoping she understood. A flicker crossed her eyes. Pain, maybe resignation. She turned, exposing faint scars along her ribs where pale skin met scales. Rage surged inside him, startling in its heat. He placed his hand flat where her wound would have been, separated by inches and an entire world. I'm going to help, he said. I don't know how yet, but I will. She blinked, lashes glistening. Then she sang. Not words, but a cascade of notes as soft as falling snow, vibrating through walls, through bone. The melody seemed to say yes, or thank you, or simply remember. When the song faded, she drifted back into deeper water. Eli exhaled shakily. He picked up his camera, turned it over in his palms, and finally pressed record. I'm documenting this for her, he said. Not for the internet, not for views. For Narina, for proof maybe, or a map of what comes next. If I'm gone, when someone finds this, at least you'll know she was here and she mattered. He paused, then added, and if you're me watching this later, remember the promise you just made. He stopped recording. Somewhere in the maze of corridors, pumps whined, shuddered, then fell back into steady rhythm. The error code on the filtration monitor glowed like a countdown to execution. 37 days. Less than 6 weeks. The following morning, he began his audit. Power sources, triple redundant, drawing from geothermal vents deep beneath the property. Structural integrity. Sound. All life support plumbing fed through a central manifold that was corroded from years of saline flow. Replacement parts existed in crates, but the installation required shutting down auxiliary lines, an action that would leave Narina without filtration for hours, possibly fatal. He spent the afternoon sifting through Hallstrom's personal notes on a secure server. A journal entry 3 months before the man's death chilled him. We approach the final trial. Dr. Crane resists, but sentiment cannot halt progress. The Siren's blood may halt cellular senescence in humans. A single drop is worth nations. The world is not ready, therefore the world must be denied. Eli slammed the terminal closed. That night, Narina surfaced again. He played an old acoustic guitar he'd found in the mansion's music room, tuning by ear until the strings quivered true. A simple chord progression spilled into the cavern. Tinny, yet sincere. Her eyes, half closed as she listened. As he strummed, she rose until her shoulders emerged, water streaming down bare skin that caught the dim light in ridges of pearl. He ceased playing, stunned to witness her above the surface. She drew an experimental breath, slow, cautious. Her gills fluttered at her ribs, then sealed. You can, he whispered, delighted. Air. She exhaled shakily, voice faint. Eli. Soft, accented, like the first word of a child. He nearly dropped the guitar. Yes, that's me. You can speak? Little. The word trembled. She lifted a hand, fingertips brushing the lip of the tank as if tasting the freedom above. Long time. He set the guitar aside, approached until his chest pressed warm against the cool glass. I'm here now, he said. I'm going to get you out. Danger. Her gaze flicked to the cameras overhead. Watch. He followed her eyes. Red LEDs blinked in corners. Perhaps Hallstrom's estate still pinged some dormant security network. Perhaps someone else watched, waiting. I disconnected the uplink, he said, though doubt needled him. But I'll double-check. If there's a live feed, I'll cut it. She sank slightly, tail swishing. Ocean, she whispered. Home. I'll take you there. The promise tasted like salt on his tongue. I swear. Her lips curved, not quite a smile, but hope. She slipped beneath the surface once more. Eli lay awake long after, blueprinting escape routes in his mind. The mansion's service tunnel opened onto a decommissioned logging road. With enough water barrels, a portable pump, and the van's back seats removed, he could rig a transit tank. He would travel at night, hugging state lines, paying cash. Coastal access within 2 days if nothing went wrong. Nothing, he repeated, staring at the ceiling, his heart punching against bone. But something already had. At dawn, an alarm shrilled through the bunker. Filtration cycle error. He sprinted to the control console. Readouts spiked red. Pressure valves fluctuated. A weld in the intake pipe had ruptured, letting brine backflow and flood secondary circuits. Inside the tank, Narina wheeled in confusion, hair swirling around her like storm clouds. Her gills pulsed frantic. Eli slammed a fist on the wrench he'd fetched, kicked open a grating, and dove into the crawlspace beneath main pumps. Steam scalded his forearms, but he jammed the temporary bypass into place. Valves hissed. Lights steadied from crimson to amber. When he stumbled back into the chamber, Narina floated near the glass, hand pressed where his ribs had collided with metal. Blood stained his torn shirt. He tried to wave it off. "Just a scratch," he said, throat hoarse. "All good." She shook her head once fiercely. Water foamed around her as she darted forward. She set her palm against the glass opposite his wound. The humming in the walls rose, a low harmonic reverberation. Heat spread through him, radiant pulsing, until the pain dulled to a warm ache. He peeled the shirt back. The gash had knitted shut, new skin taut and pink. He stared, panting. "You healed me." Her shoulders sagged with relief. She touched her forehead to the glass. Something like a sob caught in Eli's chest. "That's it," he said, voice shaking. "We're not waiting 36 more days. We leave tomorrow." She gazed at him, eyes luminous. A single word echoed against the chamber walls. Impossibly. As if spoken inside his mind, rather than through his ears. "Together." He nodded. "Together." He spent the next 8 hours dismantling the retractable skylight mechanism that fed indirect sunlight into the bunker and reassembling it into a makeshift dolly frame. He welded steel ribs, lined them with marine tarp, and installed battery-powered aerators scavenged from Hallstrom's aquaponics bay. By dusk, a shallow transport tank occupied the van's gutted cargo hold, rigged with tie-downs and shock absorbers. He limped back to the Mermaid chamber, every muscle aflame. Narina hovered mid-water, watching. He raised a weary hand. "Ready as we'll ever be." She spiraled once, a gleam of argent ribbons. Eli keyed the drain sequence, slow, controlled. Alarms muted. The waterline sank to waist height. Narina braced against the current. Her eyes held his, wide but fearless. When the tank was half empty, he opened the side maintenance hatch, flooding the floor in a shallow tide. He waded in, heart hammering. Salt stung his cuts. Narina paddled closer, tail flicking, until their faces were inches apart. "Hi," he murmured, absurdly shy. He slid one arm beneath her back, the other beneath her tail's gleaming weight. Her skin was cool and slick, a texture like polished marble over living muscle. She tensed, then relaxed as he lifted. Together they crossed the hatch threshold. She weighed less than she looked, buoyed by what water remained in her lung-like swim bladder. He carried her through corridors shimmering with emergency lights, each step sloshing shallow puddles. Her heartbeat thudded where her ribs met his shoulder, steady and strong. Occasionally she brushed her fingertips along his jaw, tracing the stubble as if memorizing the contours. Outside, twilight bled violet over the treetops. He eased her into the van's makeshift pool. Sensors blinked green. Aerators hummed. She submerged until only her face remained above, eyes fixed on him. "Stay low," he said, voice gentle but urgent. "We'll drive through the night." She nodded. A few strands of silver teal clung to his shirt. He shut the doors. As he climbed behind the wheel, a boom of thunder rolled in the distance, thick and promising. Eli glanced at the mansion one last time. In the high gable, a single light flickered, then died, as though the house itself exhaled. He started the engine and turned the van toward the logging road. Rain resumed, gentle at first, then harder, erasing their tracks before anyone could follow. Inside the cargo hold, Narina hummed a low melodic line, a song that seemed to ride the tire's rhythm over gravel. Eli listened, eyes burning, hands steady on the wheel. For the first time in years, he felt wholly, ferociously alive. The road fell away behind them, swallowed by night. Ahead, somewhere beyond dark hills and unseen cities, the ocean waited. The rain came harder after midnight, a drumming that drowned out the van's struggling engine. Eli hunched forward, peering through wavering wiper arcs. The highway was empty, but for scattered rigs blazing west. Each time, high beams flared behind him, he tensed, half expecting black SUVs or police cruisers loyal to some dormant corporation. Instead, the trucks roared past, indifferent, leaving the van rocking in their wake. From the cargo hold rose the gentle churn of aerators and an occasional splash as Narina shifted. He stole glances at the rearview mirror. Her face hovered just above the waterline, cheek pressed to the pool's edge, eyes reflecting dashboard glow. When the road straightened, he tapped the mirror twice in their improvised sign for everything okay. She answered with a slow blink and a faint smile. At a deserted rest stop, he pulled beneath a flickering sodium lamp. Wind hissed across the lot, spinning damp leaves in slow spirals. He cut the engine, but left the heater running. In back, he unlatched the side door. Cold night air rolled in, and Narina's breath puffed white where it met it. "How are you holding up?" he asked, voice low. She lifted her hand, waggled it horizontally in their gesture for so-so. "Water. Warm," she said, pronunciation improving. "But the storm sings loud." He set a thermos on the floorboards, opened the lid so steam rose. "That's coffee. Smells better than it tastes, but it keeps me awake." He rummaged through a duffel and produced a waterproof sketch pad and wax pencil, tools he'd packed years ago for cave mapping. "Thought we could try this." He passed the pad to her. Narina propped her elbows on the pool's rim and began drawing in quick, assured strokes, a spiral wave crested by a crescent moon. Beneath it, she added a rocky arch. Then she pointed southeast, in the direction they traveled. "Home?" he guessed. She touched the spiral, then pressed the pencil to her sternum. "Memory," she corrected, then tapped the arch and whispered, "Safe." Eli studied the shape. It reminded him of sea stacks he'd filmed once while hiking the Atlantic coastline. Sharp pillars that rose from mist, like broken cathedral towers. He flipped to a new page and sketched the outline of a lighthouse he remembered nearby. She nodded eagerly, eyes bright. "We'll aim for that," he said. "It's remote. Fewer people." He shuffled a map from the glove box, marking a route along county roads to avoid toll cameras. If we push through until dawn, we could make the cliffs by noon. A tremor rattled the van as thunder rolled overhead. Narina shivered despite the warm water. Eli passed her his flannel shirt to rest against. She pressed it to her cheek like a talisman. The intimacy struck him. Someone who had lived caged in steel now drawing comfort from a scrap of cotton that smelled of cheap detergent in him. As he slid the door closed, her voice stopped him. "Eli?" "Yeah?" Her eyes glimmered. "Thank you for not being afraid." He swallowed. "I was terrified, I still am, but I'm more afraid of losing you." He let the words hang, raw and honest, then shut the door gently and returned to the driver's seat before he could see her reaction. Miles later, the interstate narrowed to a two-lane county road hemmed by pines. Lightning forked across a gunmetal sky, briefly bleaching the world to bone. Eli's phone buzzed in the console with a weak data signal. Idly, he opened it and saw a single new notification from Hallstrom's internal network, the one he thought he had severed. Intrusion detected, level 5 breach, asset relocation probable. His pulse slammed, someone was watching. He killed the phone, yanked the battery, and tossed both into the glove box. The van bounced as he veered onto a service road cloaked by overgrowth. Gravel pinged the chassis. Behind him a helicopter throbbed far away. Maybe med-evac, maybe news traffic, maybe worse. He extinguished his headlights and crept along, guided only by the faint wash of lightning. In back, Narina sensed the tension. The water sloshed restlessly. Eli spoke over his shoulder, keeping panic from his voice. Just a little detour. He found an abandoned barn sheltered by poplars. He backed the van inside, doors inches from rotten bales of hay that smelled of dust and mice. Rain hammered the tin roof. He killed the engine, heart galloping. Inside the hold, Narina's eyes were wide. Danger? Maybe. We'll wait it out. He cracked the rear doors just enough to listen. Wind hissed through boards. No rotor thunder, no sirens. He rummaged in his bag and withdrew a battered laptop. Accessing Hallstrom's drives now was foolish, but he needed answers. He powered it from the van's inverter and searched the offline cache he'd ripped earlier. New thumbnail videos appeared, automated footage captured by bunker cameras mere hours ago. The first showed him carrying Narina down the corridor. The second displayed vehicle plates as he drove through the mansion gates. Eli hissed a curse, scrubbing a palm over his face. An overlay in the video marked the frames with Hallstrom Industries logo and the tag "Live Mirror Upload Failed." Someone had tried to broadcast and failed thanks to his earlier cable cut. But any system that persistent would keep trying. A third file autoplayed. Dr. Madeline Crane's face filled the screen, terror in her eyes. If this message activates, he's deployed trackers. They'll use the chip in her dorsal fin. You have to sever it. Otherwise, they'll never stop. She reached past the camera, the image shaking with urgency. And Eli, if you're the one watching, I'm sorry I couldn't do more. The clip ended, frame frozen on Crane's glassy stare. Eli's stomach lurched. He remembered the raised ridgeline of scar tissue he'd seen along Narina's spine. He knelt beside the pool. Narina, can you feel something implanted? Metal, maybe? She frowned, running fingertips along her dorsal ridge until they paused at a small hardness beneath scales. Her mouth tightened. They can track you through that. His voice cracked with anger. We have to remove it. Understanding dawned in her gaze, mingled with fear. Will it hurt? A bit, he admitted. He rummaged for his first aid kit and sterilized a scalpel over a lighter. But I'll be gentle, and you heal fast. His hands shook despite the resolve. She took a breath and lifted herself enough to expose the ridge. He cradled her against his chest, water streaming down his arms. Her skin was cool satin sliding under trembling fingers. She whispered, I trust you. He made a shallow incision. Narina gasped, but did not pull away. Blood mingled with water in a rosy bloom. Beneath muscle, a glassy knot of bioceramic caught the blade. He teased it free, an almond-shaped capsule, blinking faint green. He dropped it into a thermos, slammed the lid, and stuffed it inside a hay bale. Narina sagged. Eli pressed gauze, panic rising until the wound knitted before his eyes in shimmering flesh. She exhaled shakily, tears of pain and relief streaking her cheeks. It's over, he murmured, brushing wet hair from her temple. They can't find you now. Outside, the storm's fury began to ebb, but a new sound rose, the distant whine of turbines. Eli peered through a gap in the barn's siding. A search drone cruised low above treetops, its spotlight foaming mist. He cursed under his breath, sprinted to the driver's seat. Hold tight. The engine coughed alive. He backed out, tires spitting gravel, and gunned onto the service road. Branches whipped the windshield. He aimed south, away from the drone's path, praying its sensors couldn't penetrate forest canopy. A sudden metallic shriek sliced the night. The drone banked overhead, beam slicing across the van. Narina screamed, a note so pure it vibrated glass. The drone lurched, gyros whining, then spiraled into dark trees with a flare of sparks. Eli glanced in the mirror, stunned. Narina's lips were parted, eyes blazing oceanic luminescence. As adrenaline ebbed, she sagged against the pool wall, spent. "That was you," he breathed. She managed a wan nod. "Rest," he urged. "I'll drive." They powered south until trembling dawn peeled night from the sky. Clouds thinned to gauze, leaving a pale apricot glow over rolling farmland. Gas ran low. Eli coasted into a shuttered roadside station, pumps long dead, but tanks rumored to hold residual fuel. He siphoned with a makeshift hose, coughing on fumes, filling a jerry can. When he returned to the van, Narina watched him with weary pride. "You strong," she said, voice rough. He laughed, wiping his mouth. "You just downed a hunter-killer drone with a single note. Let's call it even." She reached out, touching his cheek through damp fingers. The gesture lingered, longer than friendship, shy of passion, yet electric. His skin tingled beneath her cool palm. "Eli," she whispered. "Heart beats fast." He swallowed hard. "Around you it always does." Her smile was soft, luminous. In that moment, dawn slid golden across her scales, flaring rainbow shards across the van walls. He caught his breath. "You're beautiful," he said. The simplest truth. Color rose in her cheeks, a delicate blush. "In my tongue," she whispered. "Your name means tide arriving." The words wrapped around him like warm surf. Before he could reply, the van rocked. A black pickup hammered to a stop behind them, 2 men in security vests leaping clear with sidearms drawn. Hallstrom's private force, or what was left of it, had picked up the chase. Eli floored the accelerator. The van lurched forward, gravel spitting. Gunshots cracked, rear window imploding. Narina ducked beneath water as shards pattered steel. Eli swerved onto a dirt frontage road veining through soy fields. The pickup followed, fishtailing in his wake. He glimpsed a drainage canal ahead, its cement culvert barely wider than the van. With no alternative, he aimed for it. Tires skidded, then bit into the slope. The van plunged into darkness, scraping mirrors on concrete walls. The pickup overshot, brakes squealing. Eli emerged onto a service track paralleling train rails. The load bar clattered overhead, showering sparks. In back, aerators coughed. A bullet had severed a power lead. Narina surfaced, gasping. "Air? Thin." Eli tossed a battery pack behind him. "Plug it in." She fumbled the clip into place. Soft bubbles resumed. He veered across the rails just as a freight train barreled from the east. The pickup tried to follow, but the locomotive roared past, blocking pursuit for miles. Eli's hands shook on the wheel. He tasted copper, had bitten his tongue raw. Behind him, Narina sang a low, soothing chord, a balm that steadied his pulse. They drove in silence until the horizon brightened with the argent glimmer of water. The ocean breathed from beyond dunes crusted with sea oats. Eli parked beneath a copse of wind-bent pines where gull cries mingled with surf. Around them stretched nothing but grass, sand, and the steady pulse of waves. He opened the rear doors. Narina hauled herself upright in the tank, eyes wide as the scent of brine reached her. Tears welled. "Home," she breathed. "Yeah," he said, voice cracking. "We made it." He dragged the ramp into place. Salt wind stung his wounds, tugged hair across his eyes. Narina braced on his shoulders. He cradled her weight, stepping into sand that shifted treacherously. The sea's roar grew until it filled every hollow inside him. At the tide line, the water foamed cool around his boots. Narina shuddered at the first kiss of surf, then sighed, a sound like gratitude and grief entwined. He waded waist-deep before lowering her. For a heartbeat, she clung to him, arms encircling his neck, tail sweeps swirling around his legs. Her face hovered inches from his. "Eli," she whispered, "come with me." He froze, lungs tight. The horizon stretched endless and wild. Above them, gulls wheeled, shrieking blessing or warning. In her eyes, he saw the pull of tides, the freedom of blue-green realms uncharted, a promise of songs that healed wounds before they bled. His voice faltered. Memories of asphalt and rent and human weight tugged him shoreward. But loneliness, years of it, tugged harder toward her. She pressed her forehead to his. If not now, when tides rise again, I will return. He cupped her cheek. Then I'll wait on every shore. Their lips met, salt and rain and everything unsaid. The world hushed. When they parted, he felt something slip inside him, a tether cast from heart to ocean. Narina smiled through tears. Together, she reminded, then plunged beneath a breaker. Silver scales flashed. She surfaced once beyond the swell, sang a single crystalline note that set his bones thrumming, then dove, and vanished into liquid dawn. Eli stood knee-deep watching until ripples smoothed. The sun climbed, gilding sea and sky. His heart beat fast, tide arriving. Behind him the van rattled lonely in the wind, but he did not turn. He waited, listening for distant song, feeling the ocean breathe against his shins, knowing the promise was written now in blood and water, and the space where two worlds met. 2 weeks slid past like the slow curl of a tide, each dawn finding Eli on the wind-carved bluff above the cove. He camped in a canvas shelter wedged between leaning pines, living on canned beans and well water, patching the bullet-scarred van by day and listening for a song by night. The bruises on his ribs faded, the longing in his chest did not. Every morning he filmed the horizon, the habitual red light blinking atop his camera despite having no intention of ever uploading again. He spoke sometimes, mostly to keep his voice from forgetting how words felt. They haven't come, he said on the 13th sunrise, scanning the empty beach where Narina had slipped beneath the surf. No black vans, no drones, no Hallstrom henchmen. Maybe the ocean swallowed every trace. He wondered aloud whether it had swallowed her too. The thought hollowed him. That same afternoon he hiked to a nearby harbor town to buy fuel and a new battery for the aerators, refusing to admit why he kept the transport tank ready. At the edge of the inlets, a lone fisherman sold shrimp from coolers. The man watched Eli's limp and the fresh pink scar on his forearm. Looks like you tangled with something hungry, the fisherman said. Storm debris, Eli answered. The fisherman spat tobacco into the water. Heard Coast Guard chatter. Private security outfits asking about a stolen specimen. Sounds like poachers. You see any strangers nosing around? You be careful. Eli nodded, pulse racing. He bought ice and a length of chain, added them to his pack, and hurried back along the dune paths. The wind smelled stronger of salt and kelp, a sign of weather turning. That evening, low clouds bruised the sky and fog settled heavy on the tide pools. Eli built a driftwood fire that hissed in the damp air. He sat beside it, guitar in hand, fingers picking the same lilting chord progression that had once coaxed Narina to the surface. The notes fluttered into fog and dissolved. Maybe you're singing somewhere deeper, he whispered. Maybe I was just a stepping stone on your way home. The fire cracked. From the gloom beyond the surf came a distant splash. He froze, every nerve strung tight. Another splash followed, closer. He rose, heart hammering. A silhouette broke the veil. First the arc of a shoulder, then a tumble of silver-teal hair gleaming with moonlit droplets. Narina stepped from the shallows on trembling legs, the scales of her tail receding into flesh with every stride. By the time she cleared the wash, pale feet pressed the wet sand. She staggered, unused to gravity. He rushed forward and caught her before she fell. Warmth surged between them. Her breath ghosted against his neck, seawater soaking his shirt. She laughed, an unsteady, wondrous sound. Legs, she breathed. Madeline's serum finally took hold. She tapped the small satchel slung across her shoulder, Dr. Crane's initials stitched in faded thread. She hid on an island reef, helped me finish the change, told me to find you. Emotion slammed Eli with the force of a breaking wave. He pulled back just far enough to study her. The same ocean blue eyes, now rimmed by delicate lashes instead of gill slits. Faint scales still shimmered along her hips like opal freckles. She was breathtaking. "You kept your promise," he said, voice hoarse, and her smile glowed. "Tides rise." He kissed her, salt mingling on their lips, the world shrinking to the space between heartbeats. When they parted, she traced his cheekbone. "Hallstrom's men still seek the miracle they lost," she said. "But Dr. Crane leaked every file. The world now knows his crimes. He has no shadow left to hide in." Relief sagged Eli's shoulders. "Then this cove can stay ours." She laughed softly. "For now, but the ocean is wide and I want you to see it." She glanced toward the transport tank in the van. "No more cages. Will you sail instead?" "I don't own a boat." "Then we'll build one," she said, as if dreaming it made it certain. "Wood, canvas, song. I'll teach you currents, you'll teach me stars." Eli thought of the lonely highways, the bunker's humming concrete tomb, the red recording light that captured everything except joy. He caught her hand, twining fingers that were now wholly human with his. "Show me the deep places," he said, "but tonight stay by the fire, and let me show you the sky." They returned to the flames. She shivered in the cool night air, so he draped his jacket across her shoulders. They shared coffee so bitter she grimaced and giggled. He tuned the guitar and played while she hummed harmony. Two notes woven, land and sea no longer separate songs but one. Hours later, with dawn brushing the horizon, Narina pointed to the first pale blaze of sunlight. "In my tongue," she whispered. "That is called the kiss of the new tide." Eli rested his head against hers. "In mine, it means tomorrow." They watched the sun climb, golden on the rippling water, on driftwood and dune grass, on the curve of her newborn ankle, as seawater dripped from her heel like parted pearls. Somewhere far out, a pod of dolphins arced, silver commas punctuating the sea's endless sentence. Wave after wave whispered at their feet, promising home, promising journey, promising that a heart, once opened, never truly closes again. The promise echoed in his chest as her fingers laced with his, steady and sure, and together, they stepped forward into the surf, letting the tide carry their footprints away while the rising light wrote the first lines of their unwritten voyage.